But yeah, so as I said, today is a very important day, and we will talk about, who is the mastermind behind the universe that we see, right? So while we all celebrate Father's Day, we also have to try to understand who is the real father of everyone, who is the creator of this universe, who has created all the living beings and the inanimate beings also, not just the living beings, who has created the mountains, the rivers, the planets, the trees, who is behind all that. So today's class may seem a little bit like a science class or a math class, but nevertheless it will be fun. I know you all like math and science, so let's jump into it. Okay, so far we studied that we are a soul. That's our real identity. We are a eternal soul, and the soul is moving the body, right? Soul moves the body. That's what we understood. Now, as far as the other things, we are just observing the world around us, right? So every day the sun shines. Sun comes at a fixed time every day, and in the evening it sets. We see trees growing around us, we see plants, we see fruits, we see rain, we see sunshine. So many phenomena are happening in front of us, but we are all just observers, right? Are we controlling that? Can anyone here control the sun? Or can anyone say, I want to sleep a little bit more, sun, please come later? No one, right? So sun comes at a fixed time. So who is controlling that? So not only we are just observing these phenomena, we are also dependent on these things, right? So if sun does not come every day at a fixed time and gives its sunlight, then how will the plants grow? How will the trees grow? If the ocean water is not transformed into sweet water and falls in the form of rain, how would our plants get water? So basically, okay, somebody sent a message. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, please, if you all can turn on the camera, that would be very, very good. I want to see you all, see your faces, and also want to make sure you are all engaged. So as I said, we are dependent on the sunlight, we are dependent on the rain, and without this, we can't do much, right? So not only we are just observers, we are also very much dependent on this. So what we will discover today is what is our observation of things around us, what is scientists' observation, right? And then we will ask you two questions. Generally you have heard this phrase, $1 million question. So since it's two questions, it's $2 million question. So we'll ask you two questions. And what else? Let's see. And then there'll be some activity. So I don't know if we can finish all this today, but we will try to finish as much as we can. And what we can finish, we will take in the next class. Okay. All right. So let's go. Now, the definition of cosmos, the word cosmos, if you look in the Oxford English Dictionary, you will find that it's a very systematic and harmonious universe around us. So what strikes you in this definition is the two words, systematic and harmonious, right? So it's not just haphazard, it's not just out there, so it's very systematic and it's very harmonious, and we'll find out what we mean by that as we go, right? So who is controlling that, right? So that's the question. If we want to know that who is the person behind it, right? So if NASA sends a satellite in the sky, right, there are so many scientists, there is a control room, and they are watching this satellite all the time, and they are taking so many measurements and everything. But who is this person controlling all the different planets who are fixed in their position, who are working like a perfect machine, right? we don't hear that a planet fell down from its position, or it went to somebody else's orbit, or there was a collision, or nothing. Everything is working so perfectly and harmoniously. So now the question comes, is it God who is controlling this? And does God really exist? Right? So as I said, who creates and maintains this harmonious universe, right? This is our observation. Now, behind every artistic work, right, whether it's a painting or whether it's a beautiful craft or art, there has to be an artist, right? There has to be a creator. uh, if there is something which is very organized, right, there has to be an organizer behind it. And similarly, if there is some creation, there has to be a creator behind it. And there is a design, there has to be a designer. And if there is energy, somebody must be creating that energy, right? So all these flawless laws of nature, there has to be a lawmaker, right? So far, so good. Okay. Now I'll ask you a question. So tell me, what is this first painting and who drew it? Anyone want to share this first painting here?
It,
Yeah, go ahead. Somebody
it's
was.
the Mona Lisa, and it was painted by Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah, that's correct. What about the second one? Who wants to answer that? Anyone? Okay, how about the third one? It's a hard one. I know first one was easy. Anyone knows these other two? Okay, no worries. I will share with you. So these are the different people who created these, right? Very famous paintings. So as we can see that when we see a painting, there has to be somebody who painted it, right? We can't say that, yeah, there is a painting, but it just appeared out of nowhere, right? Okay. Now, same way, the question is who created this real person, right? So if a painting is created by a painter, then this real person is also must be created by somebody, right? Like a Mona Lisa, there is a painting of a girl here. Sorry, not painting, it's a real girl. So who, just like Mona Lisa was created by a painter, who created this girl? And then there is this nature painting, beautiful mountains over the backdrop of water, so who created this beautiful sight, right? And same way a waterfall. And by the way, real roses, right? Who created them? So this question must come to our mind, right? That who created us, or who created things around us? Who is this artist, right? So if you want to create a paper rose, I'm sure some of you have tried creating those things in craft. You need what? You need a paper, you need glue, you need scissors, right? And of course, a person to do that. Just if we have these objects, they can't make a flower, right? Some human being has to come and use these objects to make a paper rose. Now, what about, so, we know that somebody made the paper rose. Now, what about the beautiful real rose, which has fragrance, which has delicate petals, and which has, beautiful colors? So there must be somebody who created them, right? We can't say that it just happened to be there. So we can conclude by all these examples that behind every artistry, there is an artist, right? Okay, move on. Now, I'm going to play a video which will explain you the organization of honeybees. How does the honeybees organize? I'm sure you know it, but nevertheless, and you know what, let me increase my volume. If you can't hear me, please let me know. All right, let me start again. Okay, if you can't hear me, let me know. I'm gonna play this. Bees are called social insects because they live and work together as a community. Thousands of female bees called worker bees. Is it audible? Is it audible enough for everyone?
There's subtitles, so it's fine for me.
Yeah, let me connect the speaker and play.
A hive with a queen bee. The queen bee was marked with a red
Honestly,
dot,
it's fine.
so you can see her better. The worker bees are all females, but they almost never lay eggs. Worker bees do almost all the chores in the hive. They gather pollen or nectar, guard the entrance, clean the hive, build the comb, make honey, tend the queen, and feed the larvae. They even fan the hive with their wings to keep it cool on a hot summer day.
Okay, so this was about the organization, right? So you can see clearly, how organized the bees are, right? Now let's talk about the spider's web, right? How about the spider's web?
Mathematician spiders. Compared to their own sizes, spiders build very large webs. Indeed, if we enlarged a spider to the size of a human being, the length of the web it weaves would be approximately 150 meters, which corresponds to a 50-story skyscraper. Is it possible for a human being to weave a lacework the size of a 50-story skyscraper in only an hour? But a tiny spider accomplishes much more than that. Moreover, the spider-woven web is the sturdiest material in the world. How do spiders weave these webs possessing miraculous features? The spider takes into consideration many factors while weaving a web, hundreds of times larger than its own size. This task demands at least some calculations essential in constructing a building. For the accomplishment of this work, first the spider must draw a project like an architect, for a construction of this size, design, and sturdiness cannot be accomplished without an architectural project. Once the project is drawn, the spider must calculate the lifting capacity of each part of the web like an engineer. Otherwise, the web cannot remain suspended. In order to design such a web and make such delicate calculations, the spider must be more qualified than a college graduate. Indeed, there is not a university that provides education to the offspring. Following their birth, they begin to produce silk, weave web.
Okay, so we saw the organization of honeybees and organization of spiders, right? These are amazing creatures. So clearly we can see that behind every beautiful organization, there is an organizer, right? Okay, now let's talk about the things that human beings have created. So if I see a very nice car, I know many of you here love cars. So obviously somebody has manufactured it, right? If I see a very powerful computer, then there must be a creator behind those computers, right? If I see a nice watch, obviously somebody designed it. And even the architectural marvels, such as the Eiffel Tower here you see, it has to be built by someone, right? Someone erected it, or many people did it, right? So there has to be a person behind it, right? Skyscraper buildings, beautiful sculptures, somebody carved it, right? So as we can see in all these examples, that there has to be somebody behind all these beautiful creations. So now the question comes to mind that shouldn't this universe have a super intelligent creator too? Okay. What do you all think? Anyone would like to share any thoughts before we move on? Are you convinced with this? Revant, what do you think?
I don't.
Okay, but do you think there has to be somebody behind this creation that we see around us?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. What about Aditya?
Yeah, I think so too as well.
Aditya, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah,
I can
hear
hear
you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think so too as well. I agree with Reva.
Also. Yeah, sorry, go ahead. I missed you.
I agree with Revant as well. I think there should be a creator.
Right. Okay. Kush, what about you? Turn on your video, Kush. I want to see you. Mr. Kush. Are you there? Okay, never mind. How about Avni and Avnit? Do you think there should be a creator behind this super intelligent? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's find, who's the creator behind this. So we are very clear that creation means there is a creator. We are convinced. Now we will see the examples around us which prove this point, right? So this is a sequoia seed, right? I'm sure you are familiar with sequoia tree. Some of you are. If not, we'll see. So as you can see, it's a very, very tiny seed, right? Very tiny seed. And then what happens when this sequoia tree is planted in the ground? What comes out? This is a giant sequoia tree, right? This is the world's largest tree with height of 84 meters, right? And the diameter of the trunk is 29 meters. Just imagine, right? It's so big that even a car can pass through its trunk. So you can see, some cars are passing through it, right? As you can see. Okay. Now, let's compare this sequoia tree to some of the common things we know. So there is a space shuttle here, which is less than 200 meters, and then there is this giant blue whale, the Statue of Liberty, almost the size of it, and then here is a brachiosaurus, right? So this will give you an idea that how big the giant sequoia is, right? So isn't it a miracle that it came from such a small seed? Okay. Now, same way, we know that inside every computer, there is a chip. So for example, here, this chip is designed by Intel. And the chip can store so much information, right? So much processing power this chip has. Now, what about our human brain, right? So it is said that the human brain can store more information than all the libraries in the world, right? Here is an author of the book called The Brain. He's making this statement. So who has provided that chip which is capable of processing so much information, right? Just like an Intel chip or an AMD chip is in a computer, which gives it the processing power. What chip we have and who has provided the chip which can process so much information, right? There has to be somebody. Okay, moving on. Yeah, there's a little video here. Okay, so that was about our brain, right? So what an amazing organ it is, right? As you saw, how wonderfully capable it is. So who designed this, right? That's the question comes in mind. Now, let's go down to the micro world, right? So DNA, as we all know, right? It is the molecule of life. So you can read these, and I'm sure some of you who are studying biology and science have already gone through this. So you can see that how wonderful DNA is and how much information a little DNA stores, right? Now, same way, there are structures, there are natural structures in the nature. This is called Brevis lattice structure, right? So some examples, so there is almost 14 structures, right? So these are the different structures. So how everything is so structured, and who created these structures? That question comes to mind. And then this applies to the atomic structure also. For those of you who are interested in chemistry, you know that graphite, which is a very brittle material, right? And with just slight molecular change, it becomes into diamond, which is the hardest, one of the hardest, or maybe the hardest material in the world. And it is so precious, right? Just with a slight molecular change. So we can see that the meticulous design is in the micro world. It's everywhere around us. Now let's talk about satellite. So as I was mentioning you earlier, when we launch a satellite, what happens, right? We have to have a control room which monitors it 24 hours around the clock, right? And what do they monitor, right? So here are some parameters: orientation, spin, velocity, so on and so forth. So basically, there are so many things that need to be monitored continuously, right? And then think about Earth, right? So this is our Earth, and look at its position, right? And then it's rotating around the sun at this speed, 106,000 kilometers per hour. And who is controlling it? Of course, not NASA. NASA is not controlling Earth or any other space agency in the world. So just like we see a traffic policeman controls the signal of traffic, the flow of traffic, there has to be somebody who is controlling the traffic of revolving planets, right? It's not like they are automatically moving and they never collide with each other and it's all perfectly done. There has to be some controller who is controlling all these, the movement of all these. So clearly there is marvelous design in the nature. So we see so many examples in nature of this parabolic design, and those of you who are reading or learning the advanced mathematics, may be familiar with this formula here. But basically, this explains this parabolic equation. So we see so many examples of this in the real world, right? So now we will talk about Fibonacci number. So how many of you are familiar with Fibonacci number?
Yeah.
Just raise the
Fibonacci
hand.
sequence.
Yeah, how many of you are familiar with Fibonacci sequence? Just raise of hands. I want to see. Anybody? Anybody is familiar with Fibonacci sequence? So we will watch a small video here, which will talk about the Fibonacci sequence. And then we will see the examples in the real world of how, there are so many things around us which are based on that. So here we go.
Around 1200 AD, a man named Leonard Pisano, better known as Fibonacci, discovered a sequence of numbers that created a very interesting pattern. The sequence begins with the numbers 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, and continues indefinitely. Each number is obtained by adding the last two digits together. A rectangle with a length and width of any two of the numbers of this sequence forms what is known as the golden rectangle, a perfect rectangle. A golden rectangle can be broken down into squares the size of the next Fibonacci numbers down and below. If we were to take a perfect or golden rectangle, break it down into smaller squares based on Fibonacci's sequence, and divide each with an arc, the patterns begin to take shape. We begin to see Fibonacci's spiral. The spiral in and of itself is insignificant. Its importance is revealed in where we find it. Take, for example, the sunflower. The display of its florets are in perfect spirals of 55, 34, and 21. The sequence of Fibonacci. The fruitlets of the pineapple create the same spiral based on the sequence. The pine cone does the same. As currents move through the ocean and the tide rolls onto the shore, the waves that bring in the tide curve into a spiral that can be mathematically diagrammed onto a plot at the points 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, and 55. Buds on trees, sand dollars, starfish, petals on flowers, and especially the nautilus shell are formed with this exact same blueprint. With each segment of growth, the nautilus adds to itself one more value on Fibonacci's scale. This blueprint can be seen around.
Okay, so anyway, how was that? Have you, any of you noticed those?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, please elaborate. Who's that talking? Yeah, go ahead. Let's talk more about it. I think this is very interesting concept.
Yeah.
So any example of you where you have noticed the Fibonacci sequence around you? Who wants to share or just talk about the ones we already saw? Did you know about these already?
Well, if you divide the royal cubit by a meter, you'll get the Fibonacci. You'll get the golden ratio 1.618, I think. Yeah, you'll get the golden ratio. So that's pretty cool. Cubit, by the way, was an Egyptian unit of measurement, and meter, I think you know what it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyone else? Anushka?
No idea about this.
Today everyone is so quiet. Anushka, you want to share anything?
Yeah, I didn't have any idea about this map before.
Oh, you did not know that it's so much around us. Okay, very good. Okay, how about Pranjal? Pranjal, you have anything to share?
Yeah, I didn't know about it before too, but now that I know about it, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's move on, right? So now let's talk about the energy of the sun, right? So now sun, which is such a big and powerful planet, and there are some statistics before we jump into the video that the 99% of total mass of the solar system sun contains, and it's the power 386 billion megawatts of power, so on and so forth. So you can read all this, right? 1.3 million Earths can fit inside the sun, just to give you an idea how big the sun is, right? So all those good things. But now let's know a little bit more about it. So I'll play a video and then we'll talk about it. Yeah, so that gave you the idea, right? That how other planets compare to the sun, right? And how wonderful that sun is. So now the question is, and here it gives an idea, right? That sun is capable of emitting so much energy that it's greater than, per second, it's able to emit that much energy that human race has not consumed till this day, right? So that's the power of sun, right? And one second, just a second. Yeah. And then you can see here that so much energy it can produce, right? And then there are some more statistics that it takes 8 minutes for the light to come here, and so on and so forth. So you can see that sun is so powerful. So the question is, who is powering the sun, right? Who is powering the sun? Who is behind the power of sun, right? That's the question we have, right? Okay. So this is rather funny, but it says that if a stone from your window hits your TV screen, you will ask, who supplied the energy to the stone, right? So if a ball comes from outside and smashes your window or smashes your TV, obviously somebody must have hit it or somebody must have thrown it from behind, right? So the bottom line is that behind every energy, there is somebody, some energetic person is there, right? Energy can't be created on its own. There has to be somebody who's creating this energy, right? So who is supplying this energy to sun? Such unlimited energy, such humongous energy, right? So we can, conclude here that behind every energy, there is an energetic person, right? Okay. Now let's look around the world. And what do we see? That there are laws, there are rules, right? So your school starts at certain time, your college starts at certain time. Who made this law, right? So maybe the school administrator, your principal, or your dean, whoever, somebody has to make that law, right? In India, you drive on the left side of the road. I'm sure most of you have visited India and noticed the difference. Even the wheels are different. We have left-hand drive, they have right-hand drive, and so we drive on the different side of the road. So who makes those laws, right? It's the traffic police of each country, right? And then there is a cricket example here for those of you who understand. We can take it to baseball or football also, right? There are rules in every game, right? That this many players can play. These are the rules which have to be followed. So somebody made those rules, right? Whoever organizes those games or whoever is the organization responsible behind managing those sports is actually making these rules. And then, of course, our favorite periodic table, right? So all these elements have been organized here based on their qualities and properties and so on. So somebody has organized, right? Somebody has done this. So yeah, so these are organized according to the periodic law and not by periodic chance. So we can just bundle them as we like them. Okay, I feel like putting this here and putting that here. They have to be organized according to periodic law. So we can see that there is law everywhere, right? And even nature has its laws, right? You can see that there are laws of physics, gravity, there is air resistance, which the force which kicked the ball and it goes up, and because of air resistance and gravity, it again starts going down. So there are laws of physics which are operating on us all the time, right? You all know this better. You are all studying physics. I'm sure some of you have already studied these laws, but there are so many, right? The prism effect, the light, and all those, right? And there are laws of thermodynamics, for those of you who have studied thermodynamics, right? That the heat flows from the hot material to the cold material, so it's a law of nature. Or the water falls from higher pressure to lower pressure, right? This is just a law of nature. So we have laws all around us, right? So precise laws of mathematical accuracy govern this world. This world is not being run by chance. This world does not have chaos and just haphazardness around it. It's being run very precisely, very meticulously, and with a lot of laws, right? So again, we can conclude that behind the flawless laws, there has to be a lawmaker, who made these laws. These laws did not come to being on their own. So there has to be a lawmaker. Okay. So now you can see different people, different bodies. So do you think this all happens by chance, that somebody becomes a great sports star or a rich businessman and very famous person, a sports person or a musician or somebody, and somebody just happens to be a very average person or very poor person? So who thinks that it happens by chance? Let's talk about it. I want to hear your opinions here. So Devan, what do you think? Dev, do you think this happens by chance, or do you think there are some laws that are governing this?
I think there's some laws governing this.
Right, right. And I mean, you can understand around you, right? Like you are, I'm sure you are all very fortunate to be born into very good families, and there is no problem of food and every basic necessity of life you have. And in fact, we live in luxury, right? And if you look around us in different parts of the world, like African kids, or even in India, there is a lot of poverty at many places, or many other countries, right, where kids of your age, who don't have all this. And don't you wonder, like, why is this? Why some people are born at certain place and they have certain facilities, whereas other people do not have these facilities. So what is causing this? Who is controlling this? Yeah, go ahead.
Can I go?
Yes, yes, please go ahead. Who's this?
Nitai.
Nitai. Yes, Nitai, tell me.
Like wherever we see that someone is poor, so someone is rich, that means that like it's all about the laws of karma.
Yeah, I can't completely understand you, but I think you said if somebody is born rich, then it has to do with karma. Is that what you said, Nitai? Previous karma?
If someone is born rich, like, and someone is born poor, so like the rich person did like a very good thing in his past
Right.
life,
Right.
but
Yeah.
if it's a poor person, that means he did something that's not good, and he's getting the
Right.
the result.
Yeah. Okay.
The
Yeah.
laws
So
of karma.
even though, yeah, yeah, thank you, Nita. Even though you're not perfectly audible, but I think I understood what you're saying. That there has to be some law of karma, right? It's not. I mean, God can be. If God is the ultimate creator and He is our supreme Father, then God can't be so unkind and God can't be so heartless that He just randomly puts us at different places and we are born in different families in different countries. There has to be some law and if the same God who has made this world which is so perfect, which has perfect laws, right, perfect harmony, then about human beings also there has to be a law that why somebody is born rich and famous and why somebody is not, all these. So this is the law of karma. So good, this is a good segue. We can go that what is governing this is indeed law of karma, right? So who decides, right? We choose. So now there are two things, right? We choose education, what we want to study, what kind of job we want our life partners, we want the car, right, or the house. All these things we choose, but what we don't choose is which family we are born into, right? How our facial appearances, how tall we are, what's our body, what skin color we have, none of that we choose. Even our intelligence, which is such a intelligence is such a non-tangible thing, right? Like intelligence is not your height that you can measure it, or like your weight, and you stand on a scale and it tells, oh, your IQ is whatever this. Of course, there are IQ tests and all, but they are not perfect. So intelligence is something, it just has to be perceived, right? It is not very tangible. So all these things we don't control. Okay. So who chooses and on what basis? So that's what, is it by chance? Probably not, because we saw that in this universe, there is nothing happening by chance. Behind everything, behind every creation, behind every object, behind every law, there is somebody, right? It is very meticulous, it's very precise. So there has to be somebody, right? So yeah, we just saw these examples, right? That in the world of matter, physics, chemistry, thermodynamics, they all follow definite, well-defined laws, right? So how can then our birth, beauty, intelligence be random events? They cannot be random events. There has to be some law of karma behind these, right? So here we learn in Srimad Bhagavatam that under the supervision of Supreme Lord and according to result of one's work, the soul is awarded a new body, right? So as we know, our true identity is of spirit soul, and body is just the external covering, or body is the car that the soul as a driver drives, right? You remember we talked about the pilot flying the aeroplane, right? So soul is the pilot which flies the aeroplane of body, right? So same way, uh, when the body is no longer useful, right? When the body becomes old, or body is, you know, is not good for the soul to live in, the soul leaves the body and gets another body. And what body it will get is determined by one's result of one's work, right? So yeah, as we, so it's again based on the law. So we understood, right, that we have to know that we are governed by a law, right? The law of nature, the law of karma, right? So we have to lead our life in a very, very correct way. We cannot live a life where, we do not follow any law. We just do whatever we want to do, and hope for no consequences, right? There will be consequences. And even if we say we don't know, that's not a good excuse. So for example, if you go to a new country, right, in Europe or somewhere else, South America, and let's say there is a law there that you cannot turn a right signal on a red light, right? It has to be fully green for you to turn. But in America, that's not the law. So you, if thinking that this is the law here, you make a right turn and you get a ticket. Do you think that person will buy the argument if you say, oh, in my country, this is fine. I did not know that's the law here. No. So the ignorance can be an excuse, right? Same way in your school, right? You can't break a law or a rule and say, oh, I did not know about it. That's still considered that you there was an indiscipline or you made a mistake, right? So same way, we have to know that there are laws of nature, laws of karma, which are governing this world, and there is hand of God in everything around us, in all the creation, and we have to follow the law of karma, right? And what are those laws of karma, right? So first and foremost law is that we should understand that there is, every living being is has a soul, right? And we have to kind and compassionate to every living being, right? We, even Jesus Christ said that thou shall not kill. That was one of the first commandments he gave. So basically, just being kind, and considerate to everyone around us, that is the first law we have to follow, right? What else can be the laws of karma and laws of nature? Anyone would like to share? What do you think? Lakshmi Priya, would you like to share something?
Actually, Suzu, she can't attend it. She's doing some work.
Oh, she's doing some work. Okay, never mind. What about Aditi? Aditi, would you like to share? What do you think can be a law of nature or law of karma that we should follow? Aditi? Oh, I don't see her. Are you there, Aditi?
Mhm.
Yes, go ahead, Aditi. What do you think could be a law of nature? Like how I said, we should be uh, peaceful, right? We should be nice to all living beings. What else do you think can be of law of nature? Another example.
Another example. Um, you know, I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, you can say in your day-to-day life, like about your conduct, right? How should be our conduct, right? So for example, being truthful, right?
Okay.
That's it. We have to be truthful, right? So the people who think, they can lie and cheat and become successful. So there is always temptations in this world, right? So for example, in the exams, right? Especially, last year there were a lot of online exams, and I'm sure some of students, they had the temptation to cheat and Google some answer or find out, and they were able to do that. But do you think that's a good thing? If you Google an answer and put it and you get good marks because of that, do you think that's a good thing, or do you think law of karma will catch up with you?
I think law of karma would catch you.
Right. Yeah. Avni and Avnit, you have raised the hand. You want to share something?
I remember, I think I read this in the Bhagavad Gita. So if a human kills any animal in one life, in next life, that animal will become the human, and then the human will become an animal, and then the animal will have the power to kill.
Yeah, it's you're right, Avnit, that can happen. That can very well happen. So we have to be kind and compassionate to all the living beings, right? I mean, God has given us enough things to eat, right? That we don't have to kill animals. So that's a separate topic, and we will talk some other day. But that's an example. So we have to be non-violent, not just towards all human beings, but all living beings. And then we have to be, in our own conduct, we have to be truthful, right? We have to be respectful of every living being. We have to be mindful that what we are doing is not causing trouble to others, right? So all these small things, our conduct should be so good that we do not create the bad karma, right, which can come back and affect us later. Okay, anyone else want to share anything? Okay, we have some real. Swarit, what about you? You have something you want to share? Or share with me the example where you saw a behavior which is not good karma, which is not the right behavior. Share with me an example. Swarit, you're there? How about Abhimanyu? Abhimanyu, you want to share something?
No.
Okay. Share with me, what do you think is a good example of a good behavior, good example, good karma, good behavior? Do you have any examples?
Good behavior, like you should always be like grateful for what you have and stuff.
Wonderful. I'm so glad you said that. Being grateful, being grateful is one of the biggest quality we should have, right? Because just imagine, we have so many things around us. We have we have a beautiful world to live in. We have so many things, right? God has given us, we have a very nice family. We get nice food. We have nice cars. Everything is good around us. So we should be so thankful, right? We should be thankful to our parents. We should be thankful to the God, right, who has created this wonderful world. Okay. All right. Who is this? Swarit, you raised your hand. You want to share something? Go ahead, Swarit. I can't hear you if you're speaking. Swarit, you want to say something? Never mind. Okay. Yeah. So being grateful, being nice, these are some things, we have to be mindful of, and we should always follow. Okay. And once we are aware that, there is Swarit says we should not say bad things. Yes. So the violence is not just physical, the violence can be verbal also. So for example, and this is very important. Yeah, no problem. Sorry, I read your message. So especially in today's world where bullying is such a big problem, especially in your age group. I mean, bullying happens even in adults also, but the young teenagers and tweens and young adults, they are very much affected by this. It's so unfortunate that some young people end up committing suicide, or they try to harm themselves. So just imagine that even your words can be so bad that somebody may end up killing themselves. So we have to be mindful of our words. We should be respectful, and we should be kind, we should be courteous, and try not to hurt anybody with our words. It's not just physical violence, it's also the words. We should be very mindful. And just because you are on an online platform, today, anyone can type anything on a chat or, Discord or Facebook or whatever, WhatsApp. We should be very careful. These things never go away. Anything you write on any social media platform or any public forum, they're always there. Even if you delete the chat, it can be retrieved. So we should be very careful with what we write, what we say. We should be respectful. We should not, just because we are online and we are behind a computer, does not give us a permit to write anything or say anything to anybody. So if we will follow these things, then not only we will have a very happy and harmonious life, we will also have a good karma, right? And our current life will be good and our next life will be good. So we'll learn more about it as we go on. But it's important to have good karma, because we should remember that we are bound by the laws of nature, whether we know it or we don't know it. Just like the example I gave you, in another country, you go and break a traffic law that just because you did not know it doesn't matter. You will be punished. Same way, if we know the law of nature or don't know, it still applies to us. And if we break it, there are consequences to that, right? Okay, so we're almost done here. So we talked about our prime duty, right? And yeah, so this is Albert Einstein. He says the Lord God is subtle, but malicious he is not, right? So he's subtle. And then, of course, some more scientists here, they say, you can read it real quick. No worries, Push. Okay. Yeah, so science cannot explain, unfortunately. Science has its limitations. And this is being told by none other than a Nobel laureate physicist, right? So we have to believe his words. It's not a person who is a non-scientist saying that. Yeah, here you go. Lord Kelvin is saying, if you think strongly enough, you will be forced by science to believe in God, right? Isaac Newton, yeah. Yeah, so same thing. So you can see, there are various examples of the scientists believing in God. So science and religion are not at a conflict. Science and religion are not mutually exclusive. Actually, those who really understand science, they know that there is religion and there is God, right? They believe, and we can see by these great scientists' example. There you go. Yeah, this is our own Ramanujan, right? The great mathematician from India. I'm sure some of you have seen the movie, The Man Who Knew Infinity. Right, this is a great scientist. Faraday. So we have plenty of examples of all these scientists saying the same thing, that by observing the world around us scientifically, we can see the hand of supreme intelligent designer in everything, right? So this is not, so the faith or the religion is not a matter of sentimental belief, it is very scientific, just because somebody believes in God or they are God, they love God, it's not just they are sentimental or emotional. Actually, it's very scientific, right? As we learned in today's class by so many examples. Okay, perfect. So let's conclude by these questions. Okay. Okay. You just type in the chat to me, whoever wants to answer, just reply in the chat. Okay, let's see what we got. Okay. Let's see. We got a lot of A's and a lot of C. Okay. It's about 50-50 between A and C right now. Come on, let's bring the answer. Now C is leading. C is leading. I'm glad. Okay. Oh, here comes A. Okay. So I would say I got about 60% C's and 40% A. So you are right. All of you have learned that Big Bang caused the origin of universe. But actually, that's not true.
Wait,
It's
can I have a thought?
Yes, please go ahead.
So, what if intelligent design caused the Big Bang? It's like the intelligent design is the driver, and the Big Bang is the best.
Yeah, that's a good way. That's a good way of explaining it. But we can say that Big Bang happened on its own. It's like same thing as I said. It's like saying, oh, this rose manifested on its own, or the sequoia tree just somehow came. We don't know. So there has to be someone who caused Big Bang. Yeah, that can be still accepted. But just by saying, oh, it came from nothing, that doesn't mean anything, right? Okay, next question. So intelligent design were asked, right answer. Okay, come on, send your answers in the chat. Okay, this is more unanimous. Perfect. Okay, oh, somebody answered C, no purpose. Okay, D or C. Revant also thinks no purpose. Revant, why do you think no purpose to life? You have
No,
got
I mean,
such a
like, you don't always have to have a definitive purpose, but like, I think D would be a more like understandable answer. I know that A and B are definitely not the answer, and I'm leaning more towards D now.
Yeah, no, it's D. So that's the right answer. Thank you. So we will know more about it in our coming classes. Even if it's not very clear to you right now, we will know more about it. As we learn. Okay. So as we know that there's no complicated machine which just comes on its own and has no purpose. It happens on its own. You have not seen, right? Any machine, computer, building, pencil, blah, blah, blah. Everything comes, it's all by design, right? And it happens for a reason, right? So the Big Bang Theory, I know we are going a minute over. Is it okay? I'll just finish it. I'm very close to finishing it. Is it okay? So we can take the next topic. Is everyone okay? Any objections if we go a couple of minutes over? Okay. Yeah, okay. So here we go. What is the scientist saying? Everything began from a point of infinite temperature, infinite density, infinite size that is physically indescribable, mathematically unverifiable, beyond all conceptions of space and time. So that's what the Big Bang Theory says. Okay. Improbable assumptions, right? So, okay, excellent. This is it. And if you want to do an activity, then you can do this. I will send it in the chat, and then we will see that how each government has, and how the universal government. So I don't want to show you the answers yet, but this is an example of how a national government looks like. How different ministries are there, how different departments are there, and then how the universal department. So we will discuss this in next class. This is kind of your assignment, and I'll see you all. If there are any questions before we wrap up. Any questions? Anyone? All right. Thank you so much for joining. Hare Krishna. Take care. Happy Father's Day again.
Krishna, happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Hare Krishna, happy Father's Day.